Morning. I didn't expect to see you. Hello. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I'm grateful to be here. Being here, I get to fulfill a commitment to one of my teachers to share the medicine, help the people, and stay on the clock. So I am in a conversation with my life. I found out that I haven't been listening. Oh my goodness. So I was reading a novel by James Lee Burke, and a man was arguing with his wife about some things that she did. He said, "Why do you do that? You can't change the world." She said, "No, I cannot. But I can keep the world from changing me." So that resonated, because my current challenge is to have my reactions to what's going on in the world not change me. I realize how easy it is for my mind that was trained by somebody else to be fair. How easy it is for my mind, because of my early childhood training, to move into judgment, blame, criticism, and under all that is my self-importance. That's sort of humbling. To understand when I want other people to be different, and I change my vibe, so to speak. Like when I want people to be different, my serotonin drops, my immune system drops, my neuroplasticity stops. At the moment my mind moves into judgment, I stop having the capacity for new thinking. My neuroplasticity stops. So the other thing I've been studying lately, come to my attention, is the time lag between an event outside of me and my reaction time is very, very small. I'm not bragging about that. That's a problem for me. That I react according to my childhood training. That I see and perceive a threat, and then part of my brain changes, and my energy changes, and my behavior changes. Apparently, neurobiology says the time between an external stimulus and my reaction is 1/10 of 1 second. I don't know how you measure that, but that's not very big. So I read some stuff about increasing the gap, and I realized that's not for me. What's going on for me now is to pay more attention. And what I'm learning, or what I've learned and I'm remembering, is that there's a nerve in my body called the vagus nerve. It's a Latin word for vagrant. Does not have a home. Apparently, most nerves in my body follow a blood vessel, either a vein or an artery. They all have a home. The vagus nerve wanders around, doesn't have a home. What I also learned, or remembering again, that the vagus nerve is directly attached to my fight or flight responses. Sympathetic, parasympathetic. Vagus nerve reacts, parasympathetic, sympathetic system reacts. My blood profile changes, my immune system, my cortisol, all that changes. So the time between the stimulus and the reaction, I'm recognizing is very small. That's my programming. When I was a little person, I learned very early to pay attention to potential threats. Become what they call hyper alert. So for studying certain things, that's really good. For interaction with people, that's not so great. So I'm studying, remembering that my vagus nerve is attached to my breathing. And my breath is the only system in the body that's involuntary and voluntary at the same time. Isn't that weird? Everything else is voluntary or involuntary. So it seems like that's a huge doorway. This is someplace I can affect the game. This is the spot. So I'm learning and remembering that my breath can regulate my vagus nerve, which regulates my sympathetic, parasympathetic system. So when I react, when my breathing changes, my jaw gets hard, my shoulders tense, I can do 2 sharp inhales and a 6-second exhale through the mouth. Begins to affect my vagus nerve immediately. 3 minutes of that, I'm pretty chill. A minute and a half works pretty good too. So I've also learned or remembered that the exhale is the key. The inhale is to get some stuff in there. 6-second exhale. So that's part of it that I can do for my physiology. The other part is to recognize what I react to. Because of my upbringing and my training, I react to judgments, blame, and criticism. The difficult part is that when I react to that stuff externally, my mind goes into judgment, blame, and criticism. Like, it's out there and then it's in here. I don't like that very much. I don't like what happens when I'm into judgment, blame, and criticism. And it doesn't matter to me what the subject is. So I read something else the other day by a lady named Valerie Bertinelli, an actress. She was writing about a politician we all know and are working to love. And she said, I hate this person. She said, what I hate more than that is that I have hate in my heart. That's worse than hating him. So I could relate to that. So at a deeper level, what I think is that is the seduction of the dark side. That's how I get seduced by the darkness. Judgment comes up. I judge the judger. I become what I hate. In a session with somebody the other day, the guy said to me, I realize I can't kill the killers. No, you can't. Then I turn into what I hate. So yeah, how quick is that? How seductive is that energy? That energy. How seductive is that? Not me, you. That energy. If you would change, I'd be happy. You be different so I don't be upset. Do you ever say that to a significant other? I'm upset and it's your fault? I wonder that the sky doesn't fall on us when we say stupid stuff like that. Excuse my judgment. Stupid is a judgment. Maybe ignorant. Maybe that's better. So I'm also aware of how easy it is to do that. If somebody was different, I'd be happier. I mean, that's insanity. That means my energy is connected to your behavior. I'm not free. I'm a leaf at the mercy of your wind. You're upset and I get upset. The young lady I'm seeing at the office now told me she's aware of her training in her family. If her dad gets upset, her mom gets upset, and her mom gets upset, her sister gets upset. When they get upset, she gets upset. And she said, I finally realized in my family, the training is, if they're upset and I'm upset, that means I love them. She said, is that crazy? Yeah, that's crazy. She said, I don't like that. I don't like that. That if they're upset, I'm upset. And she said, it seems like I don't even have any choice at that moment. That's what I really don't like the most. She said, I am like, as you say, a leaf at the mercy of the wind. So some of this medicine I'm sharing with you is very simply looking for, where am I a leaf at the mercy of the wind? Where and when? How does that happen? And you may have noticed in these talks, if you've been here before, we don't ask why. We already know why. I was trained to do this when I was a little kid. That's why. We don't need any more time on that. There's a guy named R.G. Lang, French psychiatrist, wrote a book on why. It's written in a circle. You have to turn the book to read the book. And that's the point. Why is this? Why? So in this medicine, we switch to how. How does this happen? We already know why. I was trained by my father to be very reactive. He grew up at a certain time. He grew up in a certain culture where he was on alert all the time. So I learned to be on alert all the time, especially around him. So it's a good medicine. So I'm studying, like Valerie Bertinelli, how quickly I move into something I don't like. That the time lag is very short. And it's not so much the incident, it's that my mind can be easily hijacked by what I call the darkness. And what I'm calling the darkness is not based in judgment, it's just not the light. If I say the light is peace and joy and love and compassion and caring and patience, my dark side is impatient, self-important, judgmental, critical, self-righteous. I'm finally understanding after all these years that my judgment is a screen, something that hides my self-importance. And what I mean is my self-importance is where I believe that I really know how the world should be and how people should be. That's my self-importance, that I really believe I know. There's another level underneath that. When I'm in my self-importance, I literally have turned my back on spirit. I have said, you're not doing a good job. I know what has to happen here. Can you believe the audacity of that? That I think I know better than the great mystery? That's incredible. That is my self-importance. That is humbling to admit that. That there are times when I'm upset that I believe I know better than the great mystery. So then I finally listened to what I was thinking. I only do that when I'm upset. So there's a strong correlation between me wanting to be the world to be different and being upset. As a matter of fact, there's no gap there at all. When I want you or the world to be different, I am upset. I think that's to reap what you sow stuff. I think that's what that is. My mind judges you, I'm upset. My mind thinks you should be different, I'm upset. Like instant karma. What we've learned from neurobiology, and I may have mentioned this before, is that when my mind moves into judgment, blame, criticism, self-righteous, self-importance, and let us not forget self-pity, my mind does that. My physiology changes. Literally, my carotid arteries contract. Instant karma. I judge you, I suffer. No time lag there at all. No time lag. My thoughts are critical, I suffer. My serotonin drops. And it's that direct. So, that's information. That information for me is useful. So part of what I'm doing as part of this medicine way is stalking my reactions. How quickly I react, how often I think I know the world should be different. And even the great Buddha shared with us 1,000 years before Jesus, the fastest way to create suffering for myself or other people is to want them or myself to be different. that's guaranteed to create suffering immediately. There's no time lag. So I'm running around looking how much I want the world to be different. And I'm embarrassed to say a whole bunch. I have a list of things that if Great Spirit was sitting right there, and you probably are, and I say, I have a list, and not much response there. Like what I'm hearing is people have done that before. Long list of people that have decided we know what's right and how the world should be. So my current endeavor is to notice that, because I understand from neurobiology that awareness makes change. Awareness makes change. And I think that awareness leads to consciousness, which is another level, I think. So my big task now is to be aware. When am I reacting? How am I reacting? Am I grabbing a hold of this thing that once I've reacted, I'm playing catch-up ball, right? You know catch-up ball? You're behind, you have to work twice as hard to get even, and then the game starts. You already have to play catch-up. That's harder, more difficult. So my catch-up ball is 2 seconds in the nose, 6 seconds through the mouth to exhale. So my first move now is to reset my vagus nerve instead of trying to figure stuff out. For years, I've been trying to figure out why am I upset. And I finally understand my training. It's not my fault, it's my training. It is my responsibility if I don't like being upset. And I understand, having children and grandchildren and their spouses, that I'm not real popular when I'm upset. Gee, what a surprise. Yeah. So one of my granddaughters, when she was living with us a little while, she was upset. And I'd say, it's okay to be upset. Go in your room and be upset. I don't want to listen to it. So about 2 weeks ago, I was complaining about something. She said, Papa, go in your room. Who taught you that, kid? Yeah. So that's called you reap what you sow. Yeah. So what I'm looking at is when I get upset. Not why do I get upset, how do I get upset? And it's always the same thing. I want people to be different, or I want the world to be different. I'm like Valerie Bertinelli. I end up hating somebody, and then my heart is full of hate, and then I get sick. Hate makes me sick. I don't know if we've learned that as two-legged yet. We seem to be missing that one. But maybe we'll get there. And what happens if we don't? That's an interesting thought. So, I'm looking for when I get upset, and my intent at the moment is to immediately try to readjust my nervous system before I do anything else. That's been a shift for me. For most of my life, I've had this belief I can figure anything out. And I realize that's not true. You can't figure out how to swim. You gotta get in the pool. You can't figure out how to be a carpenter. You have to hit your thumb with the hammer a couple of times. I've done that. And that was a humbling experience. My first roofing job as an apprentice carpenter, the old man next to me said, this is before nail guns. This is when we used hammers. A long time ago. The old man said to me, look at the head of the nail, not your thumb. Yeah. So you know what happened. I hit the thumb and split the thumb. He's over there smiling. The old fart. Anyway, he spoke the truth, and I was in that place of I knew more than he did. He'd been a carpenter 30 years, and I'd been a carpenter 15 minutes, and I knew more than he did. And that was my ego or my testosterone poisoning. Who cares what it was? It was a humbling experience. So fortunately, I'm continuing to have those humbling experiences, and I set them up. I set it up to look for where I'm reactive. I set it up to look for where I want people of the world to be different. I set it up on purpose. That's called stalking the self. We stalk ourselves and we leave everybody else alone. You handle your stuff. I got enough stuff going on. And my stuff at the moment is how often I want the world to be different. I want politicians to be different. I saw a doctor the other day about something, a minor thing, and this doctor was so good. It was a woman doctor, and I realized, I walked in here expecting my normal interaction with doctors, which generally isn't very pleasant. We have some philosophical differences upon occasion, having to do with pharmaceuticals. So I realized that after I left, that it was such a fine experience with this person that I had been expecting something else without any awareness. I had been expecting difficulty without awareness. That's not good. I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I mean that as that's something I do not prefer. I prefer a level of awareness that when I'm upset and I'm in the future expecting trouble, that I can wake up to that a little bit, readjust my vagus nerve, and stop it. That's where my point of change is. It's not figuring it out. It's not trying to be good or holy. I'm not good at that. I'm not even going to practice that. I'm not good at that. I am good at awareness. I've been practicing that for a long time. I see there's much more to it than I thought. That my awareness leads to a level of consciousness. And consciousness is something a little different. It's the belief that everything has consciousness. What that means is this has consciousness. Well, how can you say that? Well, because the electrons that make this thing up are moving all the time. What keeps those electrons moving? Certainly not me. What keeps the wind blowing? What keeps my body alive? So I'm assuming that's consciousness. There's something going on that I'm not very aware of. I do know that the electrons in this piece of metal are moving all the time. I know that I cannot see that unless I put it under an electron microscope. Then I can see that. So I know it's true. So my electrons are moving all the time, and I'm not choosing that. That's going on, thanks to the grace of Vahataka, the great mystery. So right now, my part is actually very small. It has to do with awareness and responsibility. And we think those are the two legs of the stalking medicine, to be aware and to be responsible. I'm reacting. My jaw is tight, my breathing's changed, I want them to be different, and I'm responsible. They're not responsible for my upset. The great mystery sent them to show me how quickly I react. That's a teacher over there. That one I want to be different is showing me how quickly I move into wanting people to be different. And the thing that we've learned over and over again, that when my mind wants people of the world to be different, my carotid arteries contract. My heart closes, energetically and physically. And you know, it's not rocket science, that's not good for me. My heart open with the blood vessels flowing the way they're supposed to, that's good for me. So this is not a judgment. It's like, I have granddaughters, 4 granddaughters, and I tell them, one of your responsibilities is to be able to tell the difference between a garden snake and a rattlesnake. You can have a relationship with a garden snake you cannot have with the rattlesnake. And young men may be like that. It's a possibility that part of your work as a young woman is to learn to distinguish between rattlesnakes and garden snakes and not try to have a relationship with this one. This one is only acting according to its nature. The great mystery created rattlesnakes and garden snakes and loves them equally. There's no judgment about garden snake or rattlesnake. One's not better than the other. It has to do with relationships. So as you know, it's difficult to have a relationship with somebody that's judgmental and critical and wants us to be different. It's easy to have a relationship with somebody that likes me the way I am. My dog always likes me the way I am. And I want to learn to be more like my dog. Oh, yeah. Can get into that sometimes. Okay, so What I'm sharing with you today is really simple stuff. It's a matter of awareness and responsibility. It seems to connect with spirit. It seems for me that when I'm in judgment, blame, and criticism, self-righteousness, and self-importance, I'm not as connected to the great mystery. I feel better when I'm connected more with the great mystery. And something I want to share with you, I am sharing with you, that it appears the amount of judgment in my mind that I have for the world or other people is equal to the amount of self-pity I have. Yuck. That my judgment is equal to my self-pity. That this and this are equal. That's humbling. So I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you for this opportunity to share this medicine. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you all. I'm grateful. This does some things for me. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you. Whoopie-la.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Britton, and I would like to take the principles that HAL has shared today and let us all do our own inner work on something that we need to stalk today. Everyone has something, a relationship, an event in our world, thoughts in our own mind that came unbidden. Whatever they are, let's pick one, just one. And let's do this breathing that he spoke of. 2 sniffs in, and the count of 6 release. So hold that picture in your mind of what you are wanting to dispel. And sniff, 1, 2. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sniff in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now imagine your blood flow now. Your vagus nerve has calmed. The blood flow is moving through your form. And before you has dissolved this one thing that you held. Allow that, all of it to dissolve. Allow yourself to be at peace, to be in wholeness, to be in integrity with the source of all that is. And you are whole. So before I leave the podium, I want to call attention to the altar that Ruth has made for us today, that all of you can come up and enjoy a moment of creativity that was brought here to share and to bring us all together. Ho.